Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Capital One Bank, New York Community Bank, Eastern Consolidated, M&T Bank, Sterling National Bank, Meridian Capital Group, Customers Bank, Aerial Property Advisors, Dime Community Bank. Additional funding has been provided by AmTrust Title Insurance Company, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, JP Morgan Chase, Citizens Bank, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Real Estate Organization, Handro Properties, Hodges Ward Elliott, Inc., Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantile Bank, New Banks, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Services, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Marinkoff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Organization, Moynihan Capital Partners, and these friends.
Wayne, New Jersey. Go to Wayne Public School, Wayne High School, Wayne Hills High School, playing football, basketball, rugby, working at the diner, this famed diner, this Greek diner, as a waiter, a busboy. Nah, I'm going to go to Wesleyan. Nah, Wesleyan's a good school, but I want to work in public accounting, and while I'm at KPMG, I'm going to go for my master's. I'm going to work on Manufacturers Hanover Bank. Nah, there's a good opportunity at a bank called M&T. Republic National Bank? I hear it's a good bank. It's controlled by this guy, Edmund Safra. M&T. How about this bank called Signature Bank? Good bank, good place, part of the founders. But unfortunately, it's 2008. Herald Bank, Sterling Bank, Astoria Bank, and now the executive vice president, New York market president for Sterling National Bank, David Bagatelle. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Michael.
So talk to me about the history of mom and dad. Go to your dad's side and then mom's side.
My paternal grandfather was second generation. He was born here, so was my grandmother. He was a professional photographer, and
You called him Jerry or something?
his name was Sampson, and they called him Jerry, which got to be very confusing because he had a brother named Jerry.
Right.
So don't ask me how that all came about, but but it did.
That's Dad's father.
That was my grandfather, my paternal grandfather. My grandmother grew up fairly affluent. Her parents were merchants, and as would have it, and grew up in Brooklyn. I met my grandfather, and they ended up settling in Freeport, New York, where my father grew up.
Tell me about your father.
My father's was a great guy. He very hard worker, a lot of integrity, very well liked.
He was involved with sports also, right?
He played football and lacrosse in college. Went to Union College, and went there. Back in those days, Division III sports, they had scholarships. So he had a football scholarship, and then the football team was not very good at Union and transferred his scholarship over to lacrosse, and ended up being a four-year lacrosse player and a captain at Union College.
And ironically, Mom, she went into the state teaching school in Albany, so that's how Mom and Dad met.
And my mother was at the State University of Albany, the Teachers College, which is now SUNY Albany, and she actually skipped a couple of years of high school, and ended up graduating high school at 16, and went to school at Albany. I met my father when the two of them were in college. They met.
After that, your father comes back to New York, right?
Correct.
And at that time, he follows a similar track, but he goes to work for Arthur Andersen.
When he originally went to college, he wanted to be an engineer, and for no other reason other than he was good at math, and it seemed like the thing to do. And so he started out as an engineering major. That didn't last very long. He became an economics major, and ultimately that seemed to be his calling. And coming out of Union College, they used to have a program where, in those days, Arthur Andersen, Big Eight, they would sponsor you to go to graduate school at Rutgers in Newark. So he went to Rutgers Newark at night, and commuted back and forth to Queens, where he and my mother lived after they were married, and he worked at Arthur Andersen during the day.
Now, you said to me they told him he would be fast-tracked if he went up to Rochester, New York.
He did, yeah. I mean, right out of school, I think he sort of saw the Vietnam War coming, and he joined the Coast Guard. So he was in the Coast Guard for a couple of years, then did the Arthur Andersen thing. And back in those days, to be a partner at a Big Eight accounting firm, it was 14, 15, 16 years. I guess nowadays it can be as short as 10. But back in those days, it was a very, very long time. And I would say public accounting, especially at a firm like Arthur Andersen or Price Waterhouse, was very prestigious. And he wanted to make partner as quickly as he possibly could. Even today at the lower levels in those firms where you really make the money is as a partner. And they were opening up an office up in Rochester. There were several Fortune 100 companies up in Rochester. You had Kodak and Xerox and General Dynamics and Bausch & Lomb. There were some very big companies up there. And Arthur Andersen wanted to open up an office there. They asked my father as a senior manager if he wanted to be one of the leads up there, and the promise at the time was it would be a fast track to partners. So
they had the young kid up in Rochester.
Yeah, we packed up the bags, and
How many years did you stay in Rochester? From 2 years of age to like 7, you said?
From 2 until about 13. I was actually bar mitzvahed up there.
Your father was more of a turnaround guy most of his career,
right?
Until he got involved with the securities with Rosencrantz, right?
So he left Arthur Andersen and took the job as a CFO of a mid-size optical company because Kodak was in Rochester. You had a lot of lens and optical companies there, and that company was in a turnaround situation, and he developed a reputation as being a very, very strong turnaround specialist. He turned around a couple of companies up there. Ultimately, the last company was a company called Cross River Products, which used to make the umbrella strollers. And it was started in Cross River, New York. No surprise there. Somehow ended up in Rochester. And they had their manufacturing and everything in Rochester. It was bought out of distress by a private equity firm. Even in those days, they hired my father as a chief financial officer and chief operating officer. And he turned the company around, and very interesting, his auditors were, back in those days, Mahoney Cohen, and Arnold Cohen was the partner, and Lou Biscotti was the manager. And they had another client in northern New Jersey called University Society. They were a door-to-door encyclopedia selling company. They also owned, because the founders were fly fishermen, they also owned Leonard Rod and Reel, which I'm not a fly fisherman, but from what I understand, they're very, very famous rod and reels for fly fishermen. And he took that position. It was a family-run business, and helped turn that company around. What's funny about that is, obviously later in life, I stayed in touch with Arnold and with Lou, and over the years have done a lot of business with the two of them.
And later on, your father got involved with the brokerage business and then the family office business with investment banking, with Tommy Kempner and the...
Yeah, after he turned around University Society, some of his fraternity brothers from college were involved in a smaller boutique Wall Street firm called, a member firm, New York Stock Exchange member firm called Rosenkrantz, Aaronkrantz, Line and Ross. He joined there to start an investment banking and a restructuring area, and ultimately he ran that company, and then they sold that to Joseph Thal and eventually became Fawnstock and then Oppenheimer. Along the way, after he left there, he joined up with the Loeb family and Mr. Kempner, and ran corporate finance and private equity for the Loebs for many years until he passed away.
Right. Do you remember growing up in Rochester? Because you said you were there until you were 13 years of age. Tell me about how life was in Rochester.
Yeah, I remember it. I remember it vividly. In fact, just the past year, I had an opportunity to be in Rochester, and I went back to sort of do the old tour. It brought back a lot of memories. But yeah, we lived there during the formative years. We were the first house in the street. It was sort of all new construction. It was a fast-growing area. It was a town called Pittsford. Myself and all of my friends all moved in together, and it was sort of like Lord of the Flies. We sort of all grew up together, went to kindergarten, all through elementary school together, experienced all that. And the magic of the internet now through Facebook, I've sort of reconnected with a bunch of them, which is kind of neat.
So you come back after your bar mitzvah.
Yep.
And you end up in Wayne, New Jersey.
Yes.
And in Wayne, you said to me you were very active in sports.
So in upstate New York, I had played lacrosse. We moved, and my father, of course, being a lacrosse player from Long Island, really encouraged that. Played Little League Baseball also, and then we moved to Jersey. And back in those days, there was no lacrosse. So sort of switched my focus to baseball, and then obviously I played football as well, and studied and worked.
So let's talk about work. You said to me this famous diner. Name of the diner was what?
Yeah, King George Diner, famous diner in Wayne, New Jersey, owned by Spiro and Jerry Stilianessis. The family no longer owns it, but I'm still in touch with the children, his children.
So you started as a busboy?
Started as a busboy at age, I guess, 14 or 15. And worked a couple nights a week for spending money, and while I was doing sports and whatnot. My parents, we were comfortable. We weren't affluent by any stretch, but my parents always believed in hard work, and they weren't a big believer in allowances or things like that.
Good experience.
It was a great experience.
So you graduate from Wayne Hills High School.
Yeah.
How did you decide on Wesleyan?
Yeah, so it came down to, I applied to a number of Ivy League schools and a number of sort of the better Division III, New England small colleges, and it came down to, got accepted to a number of different schools, and it came down to Wesleyan and Cornell, and had an opportunity at Cornell to be in the ILR school, the Industrial Labor Relations school there, and also to play football and have a Naval ROTC scholarship. So I would have been able to go to Cornell and wore the nice white uniform and done all that, which my mother was very, very gung-ho about. My father's experience in the Coast Guard.
You said forget it. You didn't have to be in
He was not a big proponent of that, of me doing that. And the difference with, at Wesleyan was I could, the head coach at Cornell said, come in here and you'll be starting by your junior year. And at Wesleyan, they had a spot for me immediately. And great school and smaller, but I figured how many friends can you have anyway? And I went up there and visited, and I just had a great feeling about the place.
And at Wesleyan, you played 2 sports, right?
Played football and I played rugby in the spring. We didn't have spring football, but...
and what you do during the summers, continue to work in the diner?
I worked in the diner, and then as I started to get closer to graduating, I did some work with my father also in the city on Wall Street.
So you graduate Wesleyan when?
1986.
So it's 1986. At this time, do you have any idea what you wanted to do? I mean...
Yeah, I originally, when I entered Wesleyan, my dream goal in life was to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer and ultimately wanted to enter politics and sort of follow that that route. And I worked in the State House my junior year at Wesleyan. I worked in Connecticut State House. I actually wrote the seatbelt legislation in the state of Connecticut, which was a really great experience. And I applied to 11 law schools. Didn't get into my first choice, which was NYU, but got into a number of other, really, really great schools, Fordham and Notre Dame and a couple of others. And, just on a whim, just for experience, I said, let me go through on-campus recruiting. You have all these great companies coming on campus at Wesleyan, Goldman and Solomon Brothers, and all back in those days, McKinsey and Bain. And I said, I want to go through recruiting. And I went through on-campus recruiting, and lo and behold, I got a couple of very interesting offers, one of which was from Pete Marwick at the time, now KPMG, they had a program very similar to what my dad did at Rutgers, where you'd go to NYU at night and get a master's, and you'd work for Pete Marwick during the day. And I didn't get into NYU. I got waitlisted, and I said, you know what?
But later on, you got into NYU.
So I matriculated at Stern at NYU Business School, and they didn't have the internet. They didn't have good computer systems in those days. I get a call from NYU, on my voicemail machine, my mailbox, that they had a spot for me, but they needed an answer within 2 weeks. And I called them and said, hey, you don't know this probably, but I'm in your business school. Is there any way I don't even know if I like it or not, but I really want to go to your law school. Can I see if I like it? And
they said no.
They said no. They said take it or leave it. And I had a decision, and I had made my bed, and decided to go forward with my business career.
So you got your master's at NYU.
Yep.
Okay. You're working, as I said before, in the financial services industry.
Yeah, most of my clients were in our financial services group, banks, which Pete Marwick did most of the major banks back in those days. I was on the Manny audit downtown. Was on the Kidder audit after GE bought Kidder, and did a couple of other mutual fund companies. In fact, I developed...
Now, what about this Reader's Digest, up in Chappaqua, New York?
So I made a big mistake. They found out I had a car. I was living in Hoboken at the time. They found out I had a car. I sort of developed a reputation around the firm that I liked to work a lot of overtime. They paid time and a half for overtime, so it was the only way I could augment my $21,500 a year salary. They had a summer client, which was Reader's Digest. It was up in Pleasantville, actually Chappaqua, and they asked me if I'd like to be on that. And Reader's Digest was going public, so they needed to do a complete set of financial statements. So it seemed like a great opportunity.
And as I was saying, you were the official certification of the Reader's Digest?
Yeah, I was the guy from Pete Marwick and Mitchell, certifying the sweepstakes, the Reader's Digest sweepstakes. They flashed over to me in the suit before they did the drawing, just to show everybody that it was legit. I did read the right envelope. I will add that, so we didn't have.
Right. So how do you transition from Pete Marwick to M&T Bank?
Yeah. So I'm at Pete Marwick. I'm very happy. I'm doing very well. And once again, though, compensation was not what I would hope for. I just got my MBA and I passed my CPA. And I was hoping they would either pay me a little bit more or move me a little bit faster. And, those firms, fortunately or unfortunately, they're very large, they're very bureaucratic. They're not really designed for the individual. They're designed for the masses, if you will, the larger group of colleagues. So, I just on a whim, I went through on-campus recruiting at Stern, and a very funny story how I ended up interviewing with M&T. They used to allot you points when you're interviewing, and I thought it was MHT. I had never heard of MNT, and I put all my points, and I show up at the interview, and they say, you're interviewing with MNT. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm interviewing with Manufacturers Hanover. Like, oh no, you're interviewing with Manufacturers and Traders Trust Company at Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo, New York-based bank, okay.
Right.
Okay, who had recently bought East New
York
Savings Bank.
Right.
And they needed somebody to get involved. And
right.
you were there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And
the bank was only, I mean, M&T, which is $100 billion plus now, one of the top 10, top 15 banks in the country. It's a little $6 billion bank at the time. They were based in Buffalo. Mr. Wilmers and his investment group had literally just bought the bank a couple of years earlier. And he was in the process of sort of turning it around, and they had bought this mutual thrift in New York City. Really were trying to figure out what to do with it. And I went through the interview, and they had started a program for newly minted MBAs. Because Mr. Wilmers went to Harvard himself,
Right.
wanted to surround himself with MBAs. He was trying to upgrade the talent in the company. And they promised me I didn't have to go to Buffalo because I had, lived 11 years.
So they took you to the Grace Building.
They took me to the Grace Building where East New York was based. And I ended up working with the former chairman, well, he was the current chairman of M&T temporarily. And I worked with Woody Collins, who Woody was one of the senior execs at M&T. So
then you have a buddy who says to you there's an opportunity 2 blocks away, basically, from
Right.
42nd Street. There was an opportunity in the Knox Building, also known as at that time, the Republic National Bank.
right.
So over there, you go to Republic and you get involved with which division is Republic?
Yeah, I mean, as the story goes, my boss's parents at M&T had passed away. She was retiring. Her position became available, and I was hoping to get that position. It didn't look like I was going to, just more of an age reason, which I never think is a good reason. And around the same time, I was approached by one of my former colleagues from Pete Marwick, who was at Republic. There were a lot of ex-Pete Marwick folks at Republic because Republic was a client.
The audit.
Yeah, they did the audit. And the Republic was in a big-time growth mode. They had bought Manhattan Savings Bank. They had bought Williamsburg Savings Bank. They bought all the retail branches from Bankers Trust. So they were in a big-time growth mode. So the domestic business, which encompassed sort of private banking and the retail business, had opportunities. And I knew people over there, and I went over there for a discussion. And 2 weeks later, I'm sitting at a desk at 452 Fifth Avenue.
Right, and that's for a couple of years until one day Edmund Sofford decides to sell the bank.
He did, yeah.
And this domestic private banking group that you were part of was part of the acquisition, but unfortunately the HSBC mentality was different than the Republic National Bank opportunities. So you and your buddies go out and try to meet with a bank called Bank Hapolim, right?
Yeah, we realized very early on in the process, once the deal with HSBC was announced in 1999, that HSBC wasn't going to be the place for us. Fine bank, but didn't really fit with the type of organization that we had established and sort of the culture that we had developed. So we shopped ourselves, ended up through a client meeting who had just purchased controlling interest in Bank Hapolim. We met the Bank Hapolim folks, and it sort of, I think that was the best fit at the
Right,
time.
and you were one of the founders of Signature Bank.
Correct.
We have a picture of you when Signature went public on NASDAQ. And then there are opportunities that where you could go on your own, and it's like 2007.
2006, yeah.
2006, and you start Herald Bank.
Correct. So we built Signature up to a certain point, and the markets were booming in 2005, 2006, and I was approached by some clients and some colleagues and some of the investors at Signature who thought that there might be an opportunity to start another de novo bank. So, I ended up leaving Signature in 2006 and kicked off the start of what ultimately became Herald National Bank in February of 2007.
Which was one of the largest raises of a de novo bank.
Yeah, it was actually the largest capital raise, still to this day, of an independent de novo bank in New York State. So,
okay, let's fast forward with a couple of minutes. How do you get involved with a small little bank called Gotham Bank?
so we sell Herald post crash to Bank United. and I was trying to figure out what to do next. And myself and one of my advisory board members at Herald, David Slackman, decide that we kind of think about it, there's an opportunity to do a roll-up in the New York market. But in order to do a roll-up, we needed to find a really good core-based bank. And that good core-based bank was this little bank in Midtown, single branch bank, $450 million bank called Gotham Bank. And we knew the chairman there, Harry Braunstein, who's still a client and a friend of mine. And Harry Gotham was a family-owned bank, and Harry brokered a transaction between David and myself and the Gotham Bank folks.
And then you find Provident.
Yeah, so we were out there raising capital, trying to find capital to buy Gotham for the initial purchase. And through our investment banker, Craig Schiffer, I was introduced to the new CEO of Provident called Jack Kopniski. And Jack, the way we got to Jack was with the related companies.
When they wanted to buy a bank.
When they wanted to buy banks, and they had raised a lot of capital. So we were using Jack to help us introduce to related, and Jack had just started at Provident. This was August of 2011. And lo and behold, Jack wanted to expand Provident to New York. He was enamored with the business model that we had used at Herald and at Signature and at Republic, and also sort of needed somebody who knew the New York market and liked the idea of sort of planting his flag by buying a small bank in Manhattan.
At that time, how big was Provident when you bought Gotham?
Yeah, so Provident was $3 billion. I joined there in 2011. And been there ever since.
Right, and then today the bank is what, about $31 billion?
$31 billion.
$31 billion. It's grown over there, and then recently acquisition of Astoria over there. And currently you're the market president for New York region and executive vice president of the bank.
Correct.
Talk to me about your daughters.
So I have two daughters, Olivia and Emma. Olivia is 19. She's a sophomore at Penn State. And my younger daughter is a freshman at Mahwah High School and 14. Very proud of both of them. They're great young ladies, and I'm honored to be their father.
And you do a lot of involvement for the community. I know American Legion, Kapad Vocational Schools.
Yeah, so I sit on the board of a number of not-for-profits, Boy Scouts here in New York, Neighborhood Housing Services, Ed Randall's Fans for the Cure, and the American Legion Jersey Boy State program, which I also run on an annual basis.
You still play any football, or?
I watch a lot of football, and
you've been involved with Woody Johnson for years.
Yeah, so the Jets are a client of ours. We're the official commercial bank of the New York Jets, so that's lets me continue my passion.
So it's interesting that the kid who thought he wanted to go to law school became one of the successful and dynamic bankers in New York. And thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Michael. Great being here.